The VTSG is the strongest tower in BTD6, on par with the Paragons. Last year, I decided to see how far I could take the VTSG if I max buffed it. It got to around 279, however that was 1 year ago and times have changed. So how far can the VTSG get on its own? Let's find out. Now we're going to be doing this on the map of Logs, mostly because it's the longest map in the game, and putting the VTSG smack bang on the water in the middle is actually a very good place to put it because it will benefit from the carrier flagship buff. I'm going to get every possible buff that I can on this guy, and I'm going to see how far he can make it. My goal is round 300. This test is going to be interesting because in Update 49, Adora got nerfed. Her main sacrifice ability at level 20, its max stacks went from 40 to 30. Basically what that means is Adora's blood sacrifice ability at level 20 would double the range and double the attack speed of a Sun Monkey or a Top Path Super Monkey. However, this has gone from 40 to 30, which means for every set amount of money sacrificed with Adora's ability, one stack would be added onto either the range or the attack speed, with a total of 20 for each. Now, this has gone down from 20 to 15 each, so the VTSG is only going to be attacking 75% faster instead of twice as fast. Now, this sounds like a pretty big nerf, but we also actually got a buff to the VTSG, although it wasn't as direct. So the new Engineer Overclock ability can apply the same effect as an overclock, but to Paragons. But you may be thinking, Brazio, why would we need that if we already have an Ultra Boost that has 100% uptime? Well, that's because the Engineer's Overclock has a small AoE, which means that if you overclock a tower, any towers next to it will receive the same buff, but for a lesser time. This helps in the form of the TSG's Sun Avatars, which don't usually get overclocked. This is huge because the Sun Avatars are a massive portion of the VTSG's damage, and is actually the reason why the most optimal standalone VTSG is a 2-1-2-2. If you don't know what that means, then we only have one military sacrifice and two support sacrifices because the buffs on the mini Sun Avatars are just so strong. However, in this video, the VTSG I'm going to be testing is a 2-2-2-1. That means I have two sacrifices for primary, military, and magic, and only one sacrifice for support. Why is this? It's because I'm going to have a support temple that's giving the same buff to the Sun Avatars and to the VTSG. And I know it's going to steal pops, but the amount of pops that it's going to get and all the other support towers are going to get are so low compared to what the VTSG is going to achieve that it doesn't even matter that if they help or not, because they don't really do that much damage to the fortified bads. This is the case for the degree 56 or so Engineer Paragon I'm going to get. However, I put it behind the log at the top so it doesn't get as much pops as it usually would, although it does eventually get like 2 million pops in the end, but that's pretty much almost nothing. The same is going to apply for Adora and the carrier flagship that I'm going to get, because that's why I'm putting the VTSG on the water, for the extra 17.6% attack boost to the carrier flagship. Unfortunately, this doesn't apply to the Sun Avatars, which would be insanely good if it did, because those things are why the magic sacrifice is so strong. Another reason I decided to do this test now, a year later, is because I want to see how high the VTSG can go before the third part of Ninja Kiwi's temple rework. So Ninja Kiwi is having a 3-step plan for the rework of the temples and the sacrifices. The first two plans are already in place. I believe the temples have gotten stronger because of it. However, the third one, and this is what most people theorize, is that the temple, the 4th tier, is only going to be able to sacrifice 2 different categories, but those 2 categories are going to be stronger, or the sacrifice level is going to be higher, raised from $50,000 to $100,000. No one knows what it is yet, but I'm very excited to see what happens, and I am going to be doing another test to see if the VTSG has gotten stronger because of that third rework. As you can see now, I am actually getting my VTSG. I have the 2 5th tier Super Monkeys. I'm currently doing nothing for no reason, and I have my Ultra Boost down there behind the log, where it is going to be upgraded to the Engineer Paragon. Now, I do eventually move it to behind the top log with the support temple, but that's much later in the run, because here it was stealing just a little too much pops. And as you can see now, I finally get my Vengeful True Sun God. I have $3.8 million spare, and that's because I'm going to be dumping a lot of it into the Engineer Paragon, because if you don't know, the higher degree the Engineer Paragon is, the shorter the ability cooldown is going to be, meaning more uptime. And more uptime is excellent because the mini sun avatars, the buff applied to them, runs out quite fast. So I want at least a degree 56 or higher because that's where it roughly gets to 100% on the VTSG. Unlike last time, I am going to be applying the buffs as I go on the VTSG instead of just waiting for it to die on its own before applying the buffs, because last time the VTSG died on round 200, and I'm going to assume that is the exact same here, because the fortified bads are a huge step up from round 199, no matter how bad it is. Haha, bad. Please subscribe. Speaking of bads, round 191 shows a bad getting absolutely demolished. It does not even make it fully on the map yet. A part of the tail was still behind where we couldn't see it. It didn't even make it to the first bend. Jeez, the VTSG is insanely powerful. I don't care what Tildy says, this is the strongest tower in BTD6. That video is coming out tomorrow, by the way. Round 200. As you can see, I have lowered the accessibility to 50%, both for my viewing experience and for your viewing experience. And as you can see, the engineer is thankfully not getting any pops, and the fortified bad doesn't even make it to the third bend. It dies on the first log. This is how insanely powerful the VTSG is, and I'm not even using Adora or Homeland here. Never mind, I am using Homeland here. I'm bad, I'm blind. That's why I need 5 pairs of glasses just to see. I don't actually wear glasses because my eyesight is so incredibly good. Although, as you can tell from my YouTube avatar, I can rock a pair of goggles any day of the week. Round 231 isn't really significant, but I just wanted to show it because it's the first time anything has made it to the second log. This is insanity. The balloons are only making it about a quarter of the way through the map, and I'm not even using my strongest ability, Sacrifice. Actually, wait, no, the Homeland is stronger. The more you know. While the VTSG obliterates around 250, I'm going to show you every single support tower that I have on the screen, so that you can remind me if I missed one, or you can laugh at me for having one that's unnecessary. So as you can see, I have the Engineer Paragon. It's about degree 63, and it is keeping a 100% uptime on its overclock on the VTSG, of which is powered by a tech bot. What also is powered by a tech bot is the Ultra Boost, because who knows at this point, we may as well just have an Ultra Boost, just throw it on there. I also have a Super Brittle and Glue Storm for debuffs with an extra +8 damage, I think, which is very impressive. I also have a middle path 4th tier Desperado to give the VTSG global range. I have a Permabrew up in the top right corner. I have a Energizer to cool down the abilities by 20%, and I have a Carrier Flagship that increases the VTSG's attack speed by 17%. I also have the Homeland. It was at round 257 where I decided to move my Engineer Paragon up to the top behind the log, because that is where it will gain the least amount of pops, and it doesn't really matter where I move the support temple, because if it has range and it can see the VTSG, it sees half the map, it's going to get pops. The only thing I can do is limit the amount of pops that it does have by putting it behind a log, which it can see over, but at least it's far away enough to not see the whole map. Round 263 goes down with pretty much no issues at all, as does 279, although I did have to time machine that round because the DDT snuck past the VTSG, which was targeting strong. Whoops. Although now I have beaten round 279, that means this is a stronger VTSG than it was a year ago. All I have to do is see how far it goes. At round 282 I got on a Discord call with some random nuns to tell them what I was doing, and apparently one of them, a player by the name of Lieutenant Koro, had done a VTSG solo test before and had actually gotten to a surprisingly good round. I will spoil it at the end of the video because not now. Round 300. At this point I am microing Homeland and using Adora's ability every single round. I decided that the best tower to sacrifice under the range of the VTSG's price decrease is a 040 Glue Gunner. Not for the ability, just because I wanted to see them die. Anyway, moving on, there were a few fortified bads this round, but nothing crazy. The VTSG easily handled it, and the Engineer Paragon somehow figured out a way to stall fortified ZOMGs in that top corner, although, let's be real, the fortified bads are starting to get strong enough where they're going to make it more than halfway through the map. However, the important part is, I just beat round 300 using only the VTSG as my main attacking tower. I haven't even applied any buffs to Adora like I did last time. VTSG is so incredibly strong. I then breezed through the next 17 rounds with ease, the only one being actually kind of challenging is 317, where some GDTs got relatively far and close to the end. This may not look like the close to the end, but trust me, for one tower test, this is a pretty bad sign. It means that the tower is starting to fail, and that eventually they're going to get DDTs leak through. All it takes is one unlucky round to completely end the VTSG's run right there. And speaking of run enders for VTSGs, round 325 was that round. Now by all accounts, it doesn't sound like very hard of a round with only 3 fortified BADs. However, that's not the only thing that goes into a round. It's the spacing and timing of the BADs that matters quite a lot. And as you can see, 2 of the bads are clumped, but one of them is quite a ways ahead of the other 2. Now this is bad because the VTSG's projectiles do not seek, so that means the pierce overlap is going to be minimal. So all the time I spend damaging the first fortified bad is spent not damaging the second 2 fortified bads, and this is very, very bad. Haha, I'm hilarious. Now, the DDTs do actually go down, and as do the ZOMGs for the first bad, but there is absolutely no chance I was defeating the other 2. Those DDTs just waltz right on through. It's like Matilda. You know that song? No, never mind. Round 325 is an excellent improvement over 279 by 44 rounds, which is not bad at all. Haha, bad. I'm gonna stop making that joke now. The VTSG got over 5.8 billion pops, meanwhile the rest didn't even crack 100 mil, so the VTSG did the majority of the damage there. Now Koro, you know the guy from earlier, got to around 330 with only the VTSG. That just goes to show how much luck actually plays a factor into free play runs, although the further you go on, the less luck matters. Anyway, that's going to be it from me for right now, because later today I'm going to be uploading a second video, and it's going to be the Macan Rules free play competition. Goodbye.